Yeah, hi all. Thanks for joining. And yeah, good evening, everyone. So let's wait for 2 more minutes for people to join. And in the meantime, can someone confirm in the chat whether you can hear me and see the screen? Mohammed, Syed, or anyone? Can someone confirm? Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yes, yeah. So today also is a demo session and it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. Yeah. And is there any doubts till now regarding the sessions or any timings? Any doubts? Do let me know. Sorry, I am loud, or you want me to increase the volume or something? It's correct. Angle. Yeah, hi, Sayed. So thanks for joining. So today is a demo session of like today we will actually start the sessions. Okay, so it is a demo, but still we'll be starting. Okay, thank you, Victor, for confirming. Great. Sayed, actually, we did went through the syllabus part only yesterday. So, and the recording is already available in the YouTube channel. Okay, so what and all will be covered throughout the sessions? It will be it was discussed yesterday, and in today's session, we'll be discussing about what is virtualization, and if time permits, I should complete the booting procedure and the installation. So mostly, it would take a lot of time. So 1 hour won't be sufficient, but still, let's see how much I can cover. We'll try to cover. And we are already 8:03. Okay, so let me start the session. So once again, welcome to the session. So today is the day 2 of the demo session. And so these are all the general information. Okay, so yeah, the first 3 sessions recording will be sent. Um, the first 2 sessions recording will be uploaded to the YouTube channel, And from the third one will be you can view the recording only if you paid for the sessions. Okay. And it is a paid sessions, by the way, it's not a free one. Okay. And no batch shifting and refund. And please do join this WhatsApp channel. Just click on that link. It should redirect you to the WhatsApp web. Okay. So yeah, you click on join chat. It should be um, joining you to the community. And why you should be part of this one? Because let's say you're having some some technical issues or anything related to our course will be posted here, and my availability. Okay, so let's say in some days if I'm not available, you can you can be notified using only through this WhatsApp channel. Okay. And please do reach out to the support team only during Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. IST. And this is their support contacts, like from the mail as well as the phone number. Okay. So these are all the social media links. And last, again, I will show you the YouTube channel. So just we will see. And yeah, so in today's session, we will be discussing about the booting procedure. Okay, so after that, we'll be discussing the what is the difference between virtualization and containerization. So first thing, why as a sysadmin you should know booting procedure, right? So why there is a need for that. So why in the sense like as I mentioned in yesterday's session, as a sysadmin, you will be or you'll be working in a volume of thousands of server, and no one can predict that okay the server will boot every time um, correctly, right? So it can be stuck in any one of these ways. So you should be in a position to like recover or troubleshoot the server in order to avoid that in the future, right? So uh, for that, you must know what are all the booting procedure. And it's not that different, by the way. So even in your Windows, it's almost the same. Just few, like the kernel in Windows, it is a different one. Okay, so here it is EFI, and init process is different one here. So few changes are there, but almost the same thing only will be there. Okay, so first and foremost, let me open Paint, and we'll go from the basics. So what is the first thing we will be doing is power on the system. Power on. Okay. So once you press the power button, so it will take at least 2 to 3 minutes to see the lock screen or your desktop screen, right? So what actually happens in the background, that's what we are going to see. So first thing is post. So what is post? Power on self test. Now what is that? So first thing, let me open a motherboard. Okay, so an image of motherboard. Or this computer is also, this is a PC, by the way. So let me show you that. MSI. One sec. Yeah. So I won't get into too much technical, but this is how your motherboard will be in your PC. Okay, so for the commercial end, and this won't be the same case in your server end. Okay, so it will be a normal one, but the components will be the same, and the same thing goes for your laptops. Okay, so but the base components will be the same one. So first thing here is where your CPU will be placed, and these are all called as DIMM slots or nothing but your memory stick, your RAM, right? So it will be placed here. So there is around 4 RAMs can be placed, and this is the power cord or the 24-pin connector can be connected to this motherboard, and this is the 8-pin connector, and these are all called as VRAM for the heat dissipation for that. Uh, there is a a metal shroud on top of that. And this is the storage, M.2 storage. So first thing, one sec, let me clear what are all the different types of storage out there. So you have HDD, SSD, and M.2 NVMe SSD. Okay, so first thing, what are all these two are? HDD means hard disk drive. So there will be a physical disk will be there, and SSD means solid state drive. So as the name suggests, there is no moving part. So here there will be a platelets or the actual disk will be there. Okay, so and there will be a IO head which will be reading all the data. Whereas here in SSD, it's just like your pen drive. Okay, the size will be huge, but it acts like a pen drive. Okay, the same thing goes for the M.2. And if you want me to compare the size, you just NVMe SSD with this is HDD. You can see the difference. Yeah, this is the good image. So this is how the M.2 NVMe SSD will be a simple chip and the normal SATA SSD. So what is that NVMe SATA? So these are all types of interface. So you're connecting your SSDs or any storage you're connecting, right? So which method we are using to connect? So that's how it is differed. So in HDD, it is serial ATA, SATA, and ATA is also there, but it is kind of depreciated. Okay, so no one uses that, so you can ignore that totally. And you have NVMe. So that's what in my system I'm using NVMe SSD, especially this M.2. This is the one. So if you see this AData Falcon, so this is my M.2 NVMe SSD. Okay, and which is the fastest? Obviously, if there is a very less moving part and the read and write speed is higher, so this is the fastest compared to your hard disk. And how much fast? It is like 10 times or even more than that. The speed will be compared to your typical hard disk. Okay, so we will again come back to what is like what are all the parts go inside the hard disk. I will try to explain in a very basic way. So please do stop me if I'm going bit more advanced way. Okay, so just let me know. I will tone down the version and explain you in a very easy manner. Okay, so yeah. And moving on to the next one, this is the PCIe slots. So what is this? This is for your GPU. So why these components are important? So why? Because if there is any hardware issue, you should be in a position to understand, okay, what went wrong, right? So again, I'm not explaining all the parts because there is so many parts and like chips are involved, but the important parts are what you need to have a basic idea about it. Okay, so and there is one LED over here. So actually you can't see. So this one. So this is a debug LED. Okay, so debug LED. Yeah. So if you see, this is called as in MSI boards, it is called as easy debug LEDs. And it is a very unique feature. One sec. Yeah, this is the one. So easily you can understand what went wrong and which component it is a faulty one, or if something is not placed correctly, right? So it is a hardware issue. You can easily understand what went wrong. Let's say it is a CPU issue, DRAM means your memory failure, or if there is any GPU failure, because let's say you might accidentally inserted a CPU which is not compatible to your motherboard, right? So let's say for the first time you're doing it. So it can happen, right? So the last one is the important one, which is like your boot device itself is not detected, which means your hard disk is failure, right? So all these are passed, then there won't be any LED. So there won't be any amber light in the LEDs. So then you will move on to the next phase or the very first booting process, which is called as BIOS. Okay. And BIOS is the most important in not only in PC, any system, even your Raspberry Pi or any system, there will be a BIOS. So what is a BIOS or what is the need for a BIOS, right? So let's say you have all this hardware. So how to monitor it, right? So you have these many hardwares are there. So what is the temperature at which it is running, and what is the speed, or you can control the speed, right? So all this should be managed in an entity, right? Or in a console. So that's what your BIOS is for. And it is the most important one. So for each and every system they have, or each and every vendor, they have their own version of BIOS. So let's say, let me give the one I am using. So MSI BIOS. Yeah. So this is the one in my system I can see. So this is the BIOS screen for MSI board. And each vendor, the UI will change. And there is a typical UI for your trainings BIOS, if you see. Yeah. So this is a typical BIOS. Even in your laptops, you might see this one. So there will be exactly the same options, but in a very basic UI. Okay, so here it is a graphical UI is there, but all the components and the functionality wise, it is the same. Okay, so what is the important one here? As I mentioned, you can see all the information here. So what is the motherboard version and the CPU, and here also you can check whether your hardware is correctly configured, and there is a version for your BIOS, and it should not be like, okay, you should have the latest BIOS version. Obviously, there is no need for that if it is working fine. But if it is very outdated, it might not work or it might not be compatible in some cases. Okay. And you can see the CPU speed and DRAM speed. Um, and it is measured in which one? Frequencies. So 3.9 gigahertz and 2.6 gigahertz or 2666 megahertz. Right. So what is that and why there is a need for speed? Right. So or like what is the purpose of it? Right. So why there is why we need to measure a speed? Why can't it be a default one? So again, it depends on which CPU or memory you are choosing, right? So there can be a memory which you can't increase the speed of it. So what is the concept here, right? So if you increase the speed, that the voltage which it is taking, right? So it will be like it will be higher, and you will use the full potential of your memory. And in my case itself, I'm not overclocked. Okay, so that process is called as overclocking, and we are not getting too deep into that, but it is also an important thing you can perform in your BIOS. Okay, so yeah, here is where you will change the profiles, and there are two types of profiles also you can keep for your sorry, in your system or in your BIOS itself. Okay, and yeah, and what if so the post, right? So what if the post failed? So you can't see this one, right? So if post itself is failed, so actually what post will happen, or what will happen there in that one is it will send a small ampere of current to every components. And if something failed, the first step itself, it is failed and it is a hardware failure, right? So it's not a software issue. It is a hardware issue, and you need to reach out to the respective vendor or some field engineer. There will be many hierarchies. So in your company, it will vary, obviously. But the point is, it is a hardware issue. So not at all related to a software end. So yeah, if a hardware failure, you can either it can be detected from the first step or in the BIOS. And the most important one in the BIOS is your hardware information, as well as one important thing is your boot priority. Okay. So what is the boot priority list? So which one to be booted first? That we need to figure out, right? So let's say In my case itself, I have around 4 disks. One, two, three, sorry, 3 disks, right? So which to be like which one to be prioritized first? So that we need to figure out, and which is the boot disk, right? So we need to notify the system that okay, this should be uh, in the first thing to be booted is this SSD, and the second one is this disk one, and the last one is disk zero, like that. It should be in a hierarchy, and that's what you will be selecting in this boot priority list. And it's not only these three, right? So in your work environment, there will be a lot of this involved. So yeah, it depends. And there is one more term called as data store. We will get back to that later sessions, but as of now, it will be array of disks in the sense. In my case, I have around 2 TB of hard disk. It is this 1.8 TB, right? This is a 2 TB hard disk. And in your work environment, you will have around 50 plus hard disk like this stacked in a single data store, it is called as, okay? And you will have a specific name for the data store, and that can be performed in the VMware vSphere. So we will discuss that, okay? So, but not now, later, okay? So yeah, so we figure out which to be prioritized. So even here, you see this boot priority order. This is a hard disk. This is the CD drive or DVD. This is a bootable USB, like that. The list goes on. Okay. So yeah. So let me give HDD and some SSD and CD or DVD. Right. Okay. So in here, we selected the first one, which is HDD. And okay, so the boot first disk has been selected. Now, what to be performed next? And it is a MBR. Okay, so what is an MBR? MBR. So MBR is not in UI, you will see. So it is a partition style. And first thing, what is an MBR full form is? So there are different types of partition style. There are two types. One is MBR and another one is GPT. Okay, so mostly as an end user, you will never even care about this one. But as of now, as a sysadmin, you should at least understand what goes in the background, right? So first thing, MBR full form is master boot record, and GPT full form is GUID partition tables. So what is this, or what is the difference between this MBR and GPT? So for that, let me go to my start, right click on that, click on disk management. And so first thing we need to figure out what is the partition style in our Windows. Okay, so just right click in your case, you might have only one disk or two disks, anything. Just right click on it, click on properties, go to volumes, and here you see the partition style. It is GUID partition table. So and FYI, that is the latest. Okay, so GUID partition table is the latest one, and it has a 128 primary partitions you can create with this one. Whereas just for a difference, you can see you can create only 4 primary partitions in your MBR. Okay, so and many systems or many operating systems is compatible with MBR because it's been around for quite some time. So yeah, from the legacy servers, which is like around 20 plus years old machines also is there, right? So even those are supported, or like it does support by default using MBR because it doesn't have a choice. And what is this primary partitions, and what is this numbers, right? So it doesn't make sense as of now, and we will discuss it in later sessions. Okay, so if we discuss that now, we will be dwell into disk management, which is a separate topic. Okay, so we will discuss that for sure, but not now. But as of now, MBR is the one. And what it does is, so it will be segregating your hard disk into different partitions. Okay, partition and sectors. and which sector to be booted first. That is the important thing, right? So let's say you selected the hard disk, it won't be booting the whole thing at first. So there will be a dedicated sector like this to be booted. And that's where that is the main reason. Let's say you're booting your system for the first time. It might take some few seconds to detect, okay, this is the right sector because the system or the IO head, right? So let me quickly show you the hard disk image so that yeah, this is a easy and easily understandable image. So let's say, yeah, this is how your disks will be. Okay, so there are different disks, and this is a IO head. So this IO head will move like so fast, and it will see this indentation in each and every. So this is how your file will be saved. Let's say you have a huge movie or a document or anything, it will be saved like this blocks. Okay, there will be array of blocks which is called as a sector, and the array of sectors is a partition. Okay, so now this IO head or read write head, right? So what it will be doing is it need to check which to be booted first, right? It can't simply spin and uh, it can't simply spin forever, right? So it need to figure out which one to be prioritized and booted first. So that's where you might even see an error like boot device not found, or so what is that reason for that? Why it can't detect which sector is the bootable one, or your hard disk itself doesn't have a booting sector. Okay, so that's the reason you might have end up in that error. Okay, so that's the important thing. And why I'm showing a hard disk example rather than SSD is because it is easy for me to explain. And in your company, still hard disks are used to store huge data. Okay, so and why? Because obviously it is cheap compared to your SSD. Okay, so which sector or what is the boot sector? So the next step it is booting. So which is grub. Okay, so what is grub now? And grub actually is in any system, and even in your Android phones, you have grub. Okay, so it's a very interesting one. So what is the full form of grub is Grand Unified Bootloader. So yeah, you see Grand Unified Bootloader. So what it does is a very, very important job it does. So you might have heard a system called as like a dual boot or even triple boot is there. So what it means, or even a single OS, which is what in my system also I'm having only one operating system. But let's say you are having multiple operating systems in your machine. Let's say Linux and Windows in the Windows 11, let's say, in the same machine, which is obviously possible, and it's easy also to be configured. In the same disk, you're having these two. So which one to be proceeded, you want to confirm that, okay, I need to proceed with Linux for the current boot, or I need to proceed with Windows 11 because it can't collide or it can't boot both at the same time, right? So because the drivers and literally all the softwares, everything is which one is different, right? Obviously, the the softwares which run in Windows 11 won't be compatible even with Linux, and vice versa, right? So that's what you need to check, or you need to confirm the system that okay, I will be booting Linux for the time being, or even Red Hat to be precise. That OS only I'm going to boot, right? So that's the screen you'll be seeing, and in so now you might ask, okay, what is grab screen for Windows and Linux? So you might have seen this screen for sure, right? Like this or like this, right? So even if you have multiple Windows instance, let's say accidentally you installed multiple Windows OS, and that is also possible. Okay, so you can install same operating system in multiple drives, and all are bootable. Then it will detect, okay, so which one to be booted first, like that. So that screen is called as grub. and you can't escape the screen because you must go through this, and then only your system will figure out, okay, um, this for the time being, let's say for 8:28 to 8:28 p.m. the current boot I'm going to boot Windows 10, right? So like that. Not every boot it will be. It won't make its own choice. Okay, so if you really want it to be booting only one, and like it should not boot to the other one, you need to prioritize, and you see you can even change the default one. But most probably it will ask you if you have different OS like this. This pop OS is a which one? It's a Linux one. Okay, so that's what. And you might have seen this is for Kali Linux, and like this, a typical one. Debian Windows 7 is there, and you see Linux Mint and Windows 8. So like this, for sure you might have seen. And if you use Ubuntu, this is the GNU grub screen. This is okay, and it's a very common one. And yeah, so even like this, Endeavor OS, if you use, it's like Endeavor OS is there, and even it's a Linux-based OS, by the way. So you even have Windows 11 or Windows 10, anything it can be, right? So like that, the list goes on, and there are so many indie developers out there creating their own version of Grub, but few common Grub screen you might have seen. So this is a typical Linux Red Hat one. Okay, so it's lab. One sec. Okay, it is a yeah. So one sec. Okay, so it's loaded already. But the point is, yeah, like this you will see. Okay, so that's your grub screen. Okay, so let's say you selected Linux. What to be or what is the next step? And this is the most important step in the whole booting process, which is your kernel. And why I'm emphasizing kernel as the most important one, even in yesterday's session, I did mention, right? Because it does all the hard lifting from the as a OS, that's the most important phase or the most important step because it does the hardware information. It collects all the hardware information, software information, and your disk management, your process, right? And your drivers. So what is a driver here? So if you right click your Windows key, go to device manager. So you see, let's say audio. I have different audio devices, and how my system will detect that, okay, physically I have a headphones, like this Realme headphones, let's say. So how my system detects through Bluetooth driver. So if my Bluetooth driver doesn't work, the driver is nothing but your middleman. Okay, so if this doesn't work, obviously it can't even detect my headphones, even though it will be turned on, right? So that's it's like a, as I mentioned, middleman, and the drivers are so important in any system. Okay, so even your VMware has its own drivers. We will discuss that. Okay, and that's the information the kernel provides it. Or it, kernel must be there. Okay, so no other choice in this case. And if there is a UI, so the UI elements also actually loads in kernel. It will be loaded, not like executed, but just in a loaded phase. And it does so many things. Just is just a very like 10% of what it does and covered. So almost everything the kernel is what covers. And there is even a mode called as kernel panic. So if there is issue in your OS or something went wrong, the kernel will panic and it will keep on rebooting or performing the steps again and again. And it is called as boot loop. Okay, so it will come to this stage and it will again move to the very first stage. It will turn off automatically, again try to turn on and perform the same step. Okay, so even in some Android phones or um, any any phones, right? So any Android phones, even I'm not sure about iPhone, but in Android, since they use Linux, so that's an easy example for me. So in Android, this is a very common thing if you somehow corrupted your Android OS. Even in Android, almost the same steps it is. Okay, so just the grub screen here, it is a bootloader, a different bootloader it is. So, okay, so but the point is it's the same, and it is called as kernel panic. Okay, so the next phase is your init. Okay, so you see init process, and init is nothing but the initial processes. Or what are all the steps to be taken? So the kernel is fine. Let's say for the time being, the kernel is fine. And what is the next phase? So you need to make sure your device is performing the run level. Okay, so the init and run level are does go together. Okay, so the next two phases are almost the same, but kind of different. Okay, so we will see how it works. So in init, actually, so we need to mention, okay, so I need the system to have GUI and CLI. So these are all types of interfaces. Okay, so there are two or actually three types, but the last one is depreciated. No one uses it. Mostly no one uses it. Okay, so I should not confirm that, okay, no one really uses it, but yeah. So GUI full form is graphical user interface, and CLI full form is command line interface. Okay, so what is actually the meaning for this GUI and CLI? So GUI, the easiest example is what you're seeing here, right? So this is my Windows machine, and I'm interacting with the machine with my cursor, right? So my the mouse cursor and all are graphical elements. You see, there is an icon involved, and obviously there is a settings and so. But the point is, you see an icon, and it is a graphical element, right? So you can click on it, you can right click, and if you hover your mouse pointer, you see some graphical animations and all, right? So all are your GUI is what performing all these things, right? So how about CLI? And for CLI also, I will give a Windows example only. So just go to your start and type CEMD or command prompt. You will be seeing this black screen. Okay, so and the cursor is blinking, and you can't simply double click and let's say dir. So I can't simply double click this contacts and go inside the directory. So I need to type cd, and you see I'm pressing tab, by the way. So you see I can go into cd cookies like that. Only using my keyboard I can interact with the system. That's the only method, and this is the method companies prefer. Okay, and now you may think that, okay, literally GUI is the easiest. Why companies prefer CLI? Why? Because actually, if you're doing the same tasks for huge volume of servers, CLI is the easiest one. Okay, so it might sound weird as of now, but trust me, that's the easiest one. But you should get hang of it. Okay, so that's the important thing. And the last one is text-based UI. And we will see this once I install the VM, right? I'll be showing you what is TUI. And the example is NMTUI. So that is your network manager. Okay, so it is like combination of both. You can't double click. And there is few graphical elements. It's like the combination of CLI and GUI. Okay, so that's that. And yeah, so why I explained that is, so you figured out the kernel is fine, and which one to be booted. Like either it is a GUI based or CLI based, or you need to load the network or no network. Everything should be, again, it is for this current boot. Okay, so it's not like permanently, okay, I need this to be forever. Again, you can select the default one also, but for the time being, which one to be booted? So you have different init levels. So init 0 means shutdown. So if you just type init 0, and it will initiate the shutdown sequence. Like it will be performing the same thing, but it will turn off all the services. All these things will be, and your memory will be cleared, right? So your memory is a temporary storage. It will be cleared, and your system will go into the shutdown state. Okay, so the init one is an interesting one. It is called as single user mode. So what is that, by the way, and why it is called like single user mode? So, yeah. So why it has the single user mode is, if you see here, this is called as console. Okay, so a console means only I have the privilege to edit this VM settings or anything related to like power on the VM, power off, or restart, any operations related to the VM. I have the full privilege to perform. And let's say someone or X person X is like connecting to the VM, he don't have any privilege to do whatsoever in this system because it is hosted in my machine only, right? So that's what called a single user mode. So I have all the privilege to do literally anything. So I can even remove all these hard disks, and that's the single user mode. So this will make sense once we do the we will perform a password reset actually for a root user in the single user mode. So at that time, this will make sense totally. Okay, so yeah, as of now, that's an important mode, or it is even called as emergency mode. Okay, and init 2. So init 2 is multi-user with, sorry, without init. And let me even quickly type init 3 because both are the same thing. Just with network, or it is called a CLI. Okay. And so what is init2? So init2, and what this means, multi-user. So the best thing in your Linux, and it is also an USB of Linux is, so let's say I'm connecting to this VM. So I can have multiple sessions of the same user in Linux. So that is possible. Whereas in your Windows, right? Unfortunately, even in Windows Server, you can't. Natively, you can't. Okay, so there is some workaround, but by default, you can't simply open a remote session for a user. So let's say same user. And one sec. Let me quickly log in. And if I log in and show you only, it will make sense. Just a sec. Yeah. One 31. Yeah. So you see, I opened a session for the user called as root. So if I click on duplicate session, it will again open a remote session for the same user called as root. So I can open thousands of sessions for the same user. Again, this is a very basic feature, but by default, this is not being used in your Windows server. Okay, so or it's not preferred in the Windows server. Why? Because if you try to log in to the same user, let's say administrator, if you log in the previous session, right, it will be automatically terminated. So what if this is automatically closed like this, right? So it's like that in your Windows. So it's a very, very important feature, multi-user, and there is one thing called as teletypewriter. Okay, so we will discuss this one, how it actually detects and works later session. But as of now, that's the one. And without network. So your network driver, right? So my, let's say my Wi-Fi driver or anything. So that won't even be loaded. So this device manager, you see, this what if this network itself is not there? Right, so it will be like this: network adapters, all these drivers won't be there. So that's your without network. And init3 is exactly the same thing, but with network. Okay, so and this is the default one. Literally anyone will be using init3 because it's like compromising of both multi-user as well as network. And that's the typical one which we are used to, right? But it is a CLI mode. So that's where your next one it will be. So init 4, actually, I'm not sure why, but init 4, no, init level is for that. And init 5 is your GUI, or it is called as X11. Okay, so what is GUI mode? Just the same thing, what you see here. So you see, there is a graphical element like a cursor. I'm interacting this machine with my cursor. There is a menu, right? So literally, I can change all the settings and everything from this GUI. And this is the CLI part of it, right? So the same machine, I logged in as a remote connection, but still it is the same machine, right? So yeah, this is a CLI. So that's your init 5. And the last one is init 6. Okay, so this is called as a reboot. So if you initiate init 6, so if I type init 6, automatically my system will go to the reboot, or it will initiate the reboot sequence and it will reboot the machine. Okay, so this is the grub screen, by the way. Okay, so yeah. Now I'm selecting which OS to be booted. Obviously, there is only one, but there is one more section called as rescue mode here. So we need to boot only to the first one, which is the actual OS. Enter. And now it is performing the kernel and initiating the services, hardware information. Everything will be populated um, from the machine. Okay, so that's what you see in the loading section. You just press down arrow here. You'll see what are all the components loaded. You see even which one is failed. It's every information you can see here. And it will be even logged. Log means like it will be saved like at this particular time, um, like what happened in the reboot. Okay, so just click on not listed and let me go to the mission. So yeah, what is the last step or last screen you're seeing? The lock screen, right? So, but before that, there is one more section called as run level. So, what is run level now? And it is kind of a very least preferred section, which means um, very rarely you might use it, or you will be using this one. So, there is a path called as init.d under etc. Okay, so don't worry about what is slash, what is this etc. So all of a sudden I'm typing some path, and don't worry about it. We will discuss that in upcoming sessions. What is this path, or why there is a path in the first place? What is the hierarchy and everything? But as of now, this is the um, bootable applications. Let's say you're having some monitoring application, as I mentioned yesterday, Dynatrace or Splunk or anything. It will be placed over here. So what that means? So you have startup applications in your Windows, right? So if you go to Task Manager, Startup, what is these all, right? So let's say any disk. So if it is enabled, okay, let's say this one, VMware Tray process. So if it is enabled, along with my OS, it will boot. So that's the reason you see the time over here, right? So along with my OS, all these packages will be booted. Okay, so like that. Yeah. this run level means, and this run level is also for each and every init. It will be. So if you see here, this is the init and this is the run level. For each and every run level, you can specify, let's say this is the run level which you're choosing, rc3.d. Okay. So slash, let's say chrome.exe, just an example I'm mentioning. So if it is chrome.exe means along with my OS, Chrome will be booted. Okay. Yeah. So that's your run level. So it's almost the same, right? So init and run level. And lastly, you're seeing your lock screen. So yeah, that's the last phase in your booting process. Fine. So yeah, this is the very basic explanation of the whole booting process. So I can explain this BIOS itself like around 2 to 3 hours just with this overclocking, but that's not that much relatable information because as a sysadmin, you won't overclock and all. Okay, so trust me, but still, it's a very interesting information. Okay, so because in your system also you can just right click your taskbar, click on Task Manager, go to Performance, and you see the speed. So many won't notice this, but this is the typical speed in um, your laptop or your PC or anything, any device. You can see the base speed and the overclock speed. Okay, so how much potential your actual CPUs use, and mostly it will be underperformed only or underclocked. Intentionally, they make it because to conserve which one battery, right? So if you are using its full potential, obviously the battery will deplete easily, and again you need to charge it continuously. Or if you have a PC like I do, obviously you must connect to the power no matter what. So you can overclock in my case. So yeah. Okay. So that's your booting process. So any doubts or any questions here, please do let me know. And it's okay. So we have only 10 more minutes. So let me quickly show you how to install. At least the very one installation will be seen. And don't worry about it. In tomorrow's one, we will be seeing the other one. So you just go to this link. So once again, for the people who joined today, just type bit.ly/LinuxLL1. So let me send it in the chat. So please do bookmark this one. Okay. So because anything related to our course will be posted here. So any uh, like I will be posting a monitoring training also here, as well as any notes or anything will be posted here. And the session notes will be obviously sent in the portal, whereas any other interesting notes I'll be posting here. Okay. So just go to this installation files, and please do download VMware Workstation Pro and this RHEL 8.4.ISO. Okay, so if you have not downloaded it already, please do download it. And the system requirement for these, right? So what is the system requirement? So let's say you have at least one CPU core. So which means you should have two CPU cores. So how to identify a CPU core? Just right click your task manager, taskbar, go to task manager. This is the one you will be seeing, processes, click on performance and click on CPU. Okay, so here you see the cores. Core, the count is 8. Or you can even go to start, type MS-info 32. So you'll be seeing this system information, or you can even type system information. Okay, so either way, you'll be seeing this information. And here you can see processor, the specific processor whatever processor you have, the core count will be mentioned over here. So in my case, I have 8 core. I'll be allocating only 1 core for the VMware. Okay. And the next one is your memory. And memory, at least 1 gig is more than enough. Okay. So which means obviously everyone will have 1 gig, at least 1 gig must be there. So this will be easily compromised. Okay. So the next one is your disk space. This is of 20 gigs. Okay. And if so, all these are fine, but if you don't have the admin privilege, you can't install it. So what does that mean? Let's say you're using enterprise laptop, right? So yesterday someone actually told that they can't install in their machine. So which means they don't have the admin privilege. And obviously, in your enterprise, or let's say you're using your company's laptop, you can't install, obviously, right? So you don't have the privilege to install. If you do, please do install. There is no issues. But if you don't have the privilege, please don't get access for all that. So that will take some time, and that there is no need for that. Okay, so that's where you can make use of GCP or AWS or any other method, and we will be seeing that. Okay, so I'll be showing you how to install on all those 3 methods. So one is your VMware, which is your local installation. AWS and GCP is in your cloud. Okay, and Azure actually, if you really want me to show you Azure, I will, or we can skip that, because let's say most of the time Azure actually charges you prior to the trial. Let's say the trial ends tomorrow. Prior to that day itself, it will be charging you, and it's not good, right? So you should not pay for the lab. That's the main thing. And GCP, you won't pay a penny. The same thing goes for your AWS. Okay, so try to use GCP or AWS. I personally prefer GCP because they are giving you $300 credit. So GCP is giving $300 credit in their portal. Okay, so just to make sure, sorry, just to get your hands dirty on their components or different ways of approach, right? So obviously you can't simply use it for everything, right? So there is a restriction for only 20 services, and that's more than enough for our needs, right? So, and for AWS also, 1 year of free tier account. So 1 year of free tier account they are providing. And the best thing about both GCP or AWS, you can use the same credit card for payment. And now you might question me, like, I just don't mention there is nothing to be paid, but why there is a need for payment? For verification. Okay, so it's not like simply you can use their service, and it's not that easy, right? So you need to at least have a payment gateway, so that you need to pay if we are using the service which are not for free. Let's say you're using a static IP, which you must pay, no other choice, right? Because AWS is paying for some other vendor for your IP. So which is AWS won't take it on their hand, right? So you need to pay for that. And how many hours you're using, you need to pay for it, right? So like that. So for both, there is a credit card verification. Okay, so I don't have the Linux current practice. Obviously, Syed, so you can practice in either GCP, AWS, or VMware. Any one you can choose, but at least one working system or working lab must be there, since it is purely lab-based exam as well as yeah, our sessions will be. And since you joined only today, right? So our sessions will be based on RHCSA exam, and the exam code is EX200. Okay, so this is the exam code, and I didn't mention yesterday the exams price. So actually, they hike the price as of now. So previously the price was around $250 or something. So now the price is around $400 for this examination, and it is actually worth it. So just to kickstart your IT career, or if you're already experienced, just to show your in your resume, like you know the basics and intermediate level, you can use this certification. And this is the code for it. Let me give the link also. Okay, so yeah. And how to register for it and how to do all that, we will be seeing in later sessions, but not now. And there is no prerequisite also. Okay, so you can directly appear for the exam. There is no need to like, complete these two exams or any other exam. And after you completed this one, you can follow the learning path and you can even complete RHCE, which is more into the automation side, like Ansible. It's almost like 70% Ansible. Okay, so you should be a advanced user in Ansible. So yeah, and you see this exam is based on RHEL 9. Okay, so yeah, and it can be either RHEL 8 or 9. It doesn't matter. Both uses the same commands and services. So you need not worry, but never use RHEL 7. It's obsolete. Okay, so when some companies or most of the companies actually transition from RHEL 7 to 8, they upgraded. Okay, so and even in exam, if you know RHEL 7, there is no point in knowing it till as of now because it's obsolete. No one uses it. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so yeah, please do download this too, guys. Okay, and in tomorrow's session, I'll be showing you, or first thing we'll be seeing what is the difference between virtualization and containers. Okay, so very, very important one. You need to understand this, then only you will get the big picture, like what is the actual use of VMware. As of now, I might have told it as like a typical software, but it is beyond that. Okay, so yeah, we'll be seeing that, and the installation part we'll be doing in tomorrow's session. Okay, so again, today's session's recording will be posted in the YouTube channel, and the channel's link, let me give it in the chat. Yeah. So you see the yesterday's recording, and today's one, it will be posted in few hours. So yeah. Okay. So if there is any doubt, please do drop an email to the support@logiclabs.com. Okay, so any doubts regarding payment or any technical doubts, anything, do drop an email. And how to enroll for the batch? Can I use VirtualBox? Obviously, you can use VirtualBox, Nasya. Okay, so anything, just it should be a working one. That's the important thing. So just so I have some technical issues in Oracle VirtualBox. So that's the reason I personally don't prefer that one. But obviously, if you are fine with it, please go ahead. And you can even use Nutanix. Okay, so Nutanix also is uh, a, a virtualization software, or you have so many softwares. Like you can even use Vagrant, right? So Vagrant, Linux, or RHEL installation, right? So like that, you can just Google and you can use Vagrant also. So even just a Docker build also is more than enough. It should be working environment. That's it. And it should be RHEL 8. That's the important thing. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, in tomorrow's session, we will be seeing how to install all the three methods. Hope I can cover. If not, in the next session, we can cover it. Okay. So again, it's a lab environment. It must be a working lab environment. It must be. And please do enroll for the sessions if you're fine with my way of approach. It's purely practical based, guys. Okay. So just this important sessions we'll be seeing in the theory part, and it's an important theory as well. So you must know these all, right? So that's the reason. And yeah, so this you just click on this buy course and you can enroll for the batch. Okay. So yeah, that's it for the day then. It's already time. So thanks all for your time. Have a great day. Let's see into next session. Not sure tomorrow there might be a session or not. It will be posted in the WhatsApp channel. Okay. So yeah, thanks all them. Have a good one. Bye bye.